That's when I realized I'm grateful, but I know I can do better. I know I can do more. There must be a different way outside. And that's when I started looking into real estate.
Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. If you are enjoying this show, getting some great value, I would love to hear from you. Please leave us that honest rating and review. It helps us and it helps other listeners find this show. And if you haven't done so, make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Now, listen, we've got a great show today. We're going to be talking to Vessi Kapoulian. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button today. Now, Vessi Kapoulian is a commercial lender turned full-time real estate investor. Now, she's an immigrant who came from humble beginnings in her pursuit of the American dream. She is now a multifamily investor focusing on underwriting, attracting capital, vetting sponsors and markets, investing out of state, and building a portfolio, all while having a W-2 job. Let's welcome to the show, Vessi Kapoulian.
Thank you so much for having me, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, Vessi. It's great to have you on. I went over your bio and background at a very, very high level. Why don't you take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps?
Absolutely, yes. Happy to share. As you mentioned, I was born and raised across the pond. So grew up in a different time, different place. And I would say that's probably the time when the seed of real estate was planted in me, although it took me several years to realize that. And why do I say that? Because at the time, I'm originally from Bulgaria. At the time, it was behind the curtain or part of the communist bloc countries. And so very often when people talked about investments, they really talked about hard assets because there was no such thing as a stock market or financial products markets, and not even necessarily cash flowing real estate assets. It's a home that you bought after saving for years and then passed it on from generation to generation. And so it was always my dream to come to the US, studied hard, earned a full scholarship because that was really the only way our family could afford to send me here. And once I arrived here, I pretty much followed the traditional path, going to school, then getting a corporate job after school and starting to climb that corporate ladder of success, or at least that's what success was painted to me as. And after several years, a few clues along the way, and events of adversity, I realized I'm climbing the corporate ladder. Some of these events were, of course, the stock market crash, corporate restructures, or even looking up and seeing some of my managers or their managers trading more precious time away from family and loved ones for money and titles. And I ask myself, oh, I don't, this is not something really that I'm looking forward to down the road. But even beyond that, if a corporate restructure was to hit, which unfortunately happened, I'm not really protected. Or if the stock market was to crash and that happens to be at my retirement age, and that will change my plans. I'll have to change my plans. So what is it that I can control? And at that time, I think that seed finally germinated. So I resorted to real estate thinking, oh, I'll buy maybe 1 or 2 single family homes. That will be my little retirement nest egg to protect me. And so being in Los Angeles, California, and being a cash flow investor, that naturally pushed me to look out of state. I made that first purchase. It was nerve-wracking, but I'm so happy that I did it. And that led to another single family home, eventually a duplex. And then I realized, wow, this is not just a small retirement nest egg. This can be something bigger that can potentially be a pretty healthy income stream that can replace my W-2. I started thinking about scaling, and that's what led me to multifamily. And so that's what I'm focused on today, buying apartment buildings and helping other busy professionals like my former self diversify their portfolios and build those additional income streams so they can create more optionality in their lives.
Vessi, I love your story. You talked about being an immigrant, growing up in an environment where, there really weren't soft assets, right? You couldn't just go and trade stocks or things like that. It was really about saving whatever money you had, buying a home, and then being able to pass that down. You actually found a way by getting great grades, getting a scholarship, coming to the US, and then you went down that journey that so many people, aspire to, right? You came across, from Bulgaria. You got this good job after graduating from school. You're climbing the corporate ladder, but you start to realize there's a few things here that this dream may not be all it was set up to be, right? And from there, you start to realize I need to have a plan B in place. Started looking at real estate, made that first investment with the single family house, made another investment, bought a duplex, and then eventually you scaled into multifamily. I want to go back to kind of that time when you were in corporate America because as an outsider listening to your story, and I imagine this is true for so many people, on paper, you literally did everything you were supposed to do. And
Mhm.
you did it the hard way. You weren't born in the United States. You had to earn the scholarship because you couldn't afford to come to college in the United States without it. So you earned the scholarship. You're graduating from school. You get the good job. You're climbing the corporate ladder. Did you feel like an internal conflict that you just weren't grateful for what you had and that you were still aspiring for something different or this trade-off? Talk to me about maybe that internal dialogue that you were going through at that time.
Yeah, I was definitely grateful, and even today, I'm grateful for all the doors closed as well as for the opportunities open. Because in every negative experience and a setback, there is also a lesson to be learned. Um, but it's only after a few years when I started looking forward, because you reach a certain milestone that is painted to you as success. And I think the traditional path, the traditional system, even the traditional environment around me was, hey, you get a job, you work until you're 65, you retire with a small portfolio, and that is what success. You've made it. You've literally made it at that point. But as I took a step back and reflected, and especially as I saw all these events happening around me, including one day walking into my office and seeing 70% of my colleagues being let go without any notice, without any heads up. And at that moment of time, I thought, wow, what if I'm next? And I was probably spared, not because I'm any smarter or more talented. If anything, I'm probably paid less because, let's face it, layoffs are typically a cost-cutting measure. And that really scared me, because I'm here now. I have my parents, and I'm fortunate enough to support them in their retirement years, but I don't have any other family. So the thought of what happens if that income stream disappears, I guess, of course, the option is to find another job, but at certain point of your career, you're talking about pretty big trade-offs, potentially taking a pay cut, taking vacation time cut, basically starting all over again and having to prove yourself to someone else, working really hard all year long, only to realize that the bonus targets have been moved. And so the carrot that was dangled in front of you moved a little bit farther along, and now you're expected to do more with less. And at some point, it was exhausting. I never felt like I could catch up. And that's when I realized I'm grateful, but I know I can do better. I know I can do more. There must be a different way outside. And that's when I started looking into real estate, which opened up a whole new universe for me, because that's where I also started connecting with other people who are different from me, not necessarily the W-2 worker bees, but entrepreneurs, self-starters, investors. just a whole different environment and mindset that created a whole new world of possibilities.
I appreciate you sharing that, Vessi, just because I know how challenging it is for so many people because again, you work so hard to build for you and your family, to build a better lifestyle. You make all these sacrifices and to realize that there are portions of that dream that were kind of left out that you missed. And it is this game where now it's about survival, right? And understanding the politics and kind of the corporate nature of things. And, I was in corporate America as well. So I understand exactly what you're talking about with layoffs and promotions and teams and all that kind of stuff. Um, can you talk about the mindset making that transition? Less about you, but just like going from being a W-2 employee to a real estate entrepreneur. What were some of the things that you had to adjust with your approach, being more entrepreneurial, that maybe you didn't have when you were in corporate America?
I think probably one of the first areas of growth and opportunity is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, uh, not being afraid to take risk. I'm not take any risk or foolish risk, but at least take well thought out risks that may be beyond your comfort zone, and not being afraid to make a failure, right? Because in the corporate world, as an employee, you're hired to do a certain job. You're not supposed to deviate from it. You're not supposed to make mistakes. If you make mistakes too many times, you get punished, either pay wise or you get fired. So you're almost conditioned, almost like going to school, right? You have your grades, and if you're not a perfect A student, you get penalized, right? So it was almost a very similar system. And as an entrepreneur, how we learn, how we grow, how we evolve is pushing ourselves to that next level, which is not always easy. Often it's very scary, but it's really through those lessons and setbacks and failures, or even moments of discomfort that are not necessarily failures, but moments of discomfort is where we grow. And so that was, and even to this day, because I'm still officially making the transition, I guess this month officially marks a year since I transitioned from my W-2 to being a full-time entrepreneur. But even today, I have to remind myself it is not going to be easy. I just want to make it clear. It's not that, yes, you do have more flexibility of time, which for me was key and make this worth it. So it is not easy, but it better be worth it, because as an entrepreneur, often you don't have a large corporation supporting you with 20 different departments. You are the 20 departments doing sales and marketing and finance, at least in the beginning until you
Oh.
get going. So you just have to choose. I think I heard this phrase somewhere: choose your heart. You have to choose your heart. It's not going to be easy, but as long as it's worth it and aligns with your goals, aspirations, and dreams, then you cannot give up, or at least that's what I tell myself every day. Keep going, don't give up.
I love it. Yeah, that's the important thing is just recognizing that there's trade-offs. Choose your hard, right? So if you understand that, keep going. There's definitely opportunities. If you could go back a year ago, when you're ready to make that transition or prepare for that transition, what's a piece of advice you would tell yourself then that you know now?
I'm happy that I started early investing in real estate, because real estate is not a get rich quick scheme. It does take time for it to increase in value, accumulate, start cash flowing. And just to be fully transparent and a bit vulnerable for the audience, I had the plan to eventually transition to real estate, but I myself ended up getting laid off last July. Walked into the office one beautiful day thinking I'll have a traditional meeting with my manager, only to find out that our entire division is being closed and my colleagues and I are basically let go. I did not expect that, but thankfully, when a similar massive layoff occurred a few years earlier, instead of singing my laurels and thinking I got spared because I'm smarter and better, I took the lesson out of it, thinking I need to get ready. I need to be prepared because this could happen tomorrow. and double down on real estate. And for me, real estate was the answer. I don't want to suggest that's the only way to create additional income streams. There are people who buy small businesses, franchises, create products, patents. There's so many ways to create additional income streams, but one is start early. The other thing that helped me tremendously and created that optionality for me beyond the real estate income streams I had created over the past several years, because it does take several years, not 1, 3, or 5, several years, is very strong financial discipline. And I think that came from my upbringing. So every time I got a bonus over those last few years, I didn't spend it, I invested it. Every time I got a promotion or a raise, I didn't grow massively into that new income. I lived essentially below my means, and that was okay with me, because I don't need much. I don't need too many material things to feel happy or to feel satisfied. And again, that may be different for everyone, but I knew what my freedom number is, meaning what is that income stream that these investments need to generate to cover my basic living expenses, shelter, food, gas, utilities, and incidentals, so I can be financially free. And I was hyper focused on making that happen. Again, through investing the bonuses and excess cash I was getting, but also being very fiscally responsible. If I had not been doing that, or if I had different lifestyle aspirations, I would not have been able to make that transition, and I would likely have to go back and find another job.
Yeah, the two things jump out to me. One, you talked about your upbringing and how that really impacted your view or shaped your view on finances. And you were financially disciplined, taking those bonuses, those pay increases, and not continue to expand your living, right? You stayed living below your means, saving, but you also were very intentional. You were very intentionally focused on having enough funds saved and creating kind of this, early retirement plan where if and when whatever happened, you lost your job or you just decided you were done, you already had everything set up. So you were prepared in a way that many people are not. I think this is why so many people need to find a way to invest, especially if you have a W-2 job. I know that we can overthink certain aspects of this, right? And plan for retirement. And yes, you should, invest in your 401k and IRA and all that, but you need to get some active investments that you actually have control over, right? And just control even on the day-to-day decision or something that's going to let you build up your net worth and network over the short term. And for you, those investing in real estate, like you said, there's other asset classes. You could do stocks, you could do businesses. There are other things you can do, but you want to build this up while you have that W-2 job income coming in, right? While you have the flexibility and the upside, that way you can plan for it accordingly. When you talk to people now, because I know you do a little bit of passive investing, you do a lot of active investing now. Talk to me about kind of the way you approach investing holistically.
Yeah, so it's an excellent question because there's so many things to consider. Probably one of the first questions that people should ask themselves is, how do I want to be engaged? Do I want to be engaged actively on passive or passively? The beauty is you can do both, you can do one or the other. But that's important because it will guide how you engage further in the process. Then I would say the next step is, at least in the beginning, it's important to be hyper focused and not get the shiny object syndrome, because if you're not focused, at least for me, it can get overwhelming pretty easily, because even within real estate as an asset class, there's so many venues one can touch it: single family homes, self-storage, office space, industrial, multifamily. Within multifamily, you have new construction, you have student housing, all sorts of optionality. So in the beginning, select one asset class, select one business plan, and then go deep. Really get educated, because it's important. Even if you decide to be engaged passively, it's important that you understand the underlying fundamentals of the investment and ensure that it aligns with your own risk tolerance and investment objectives. And that leads me to point number three, which is being very clear on what your investment goals are. Are you looking for cash flow? Are you looking for appreciation? Are you looking to solve a tax mitigation problem? Or are you just looking to protect your capital? Because that will drive your decision. Let's just say you select multifamily as an asset class. If you're focused on cash flow, you're likely going to be better served with a stable value add business plan. If you're focused more on equity or appreciation, you have slightly higher appetite for risk, you'll probably be better served in a new construction or new development project. But having that clarity of goals really helps you narrow down the options and be hyper focused. And then getting educated and networking, both with active professionals who would be potentially future sponsors you invest with, or passive investors who could be your tribe, people that you can talk to as you make those considerations and start evaluating potential decisions. So I like to say passive investing is never fully passive because there's a lot of work on the front end. But once you make that investment decision, once you do your due diligence, then you have the option to do it in a more passive capacity, meaning not be involved in the day-to-day operations, looking for properties, vetting markets, um, knocking on doors, collecting rent, and all of that. And it's absolutely possible to do this while having a W-2 job.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of investing passively, right? Is you get to lean on someone else's expertise, the knowledge that they've developed, the teams that they put together. You can lean on that experience and get the same benefits of being an owner yourself without really the headaches of having to manage it. So that's the beauty of investing passively. Like you said, the work is up front. So it's still not 100% passive. You need to do the work up front to vet the deals, the operators, the markets, make sure you understand what the plan is and make sure you're aligned with that. But once you do that, you should be completely passive once that decision is made. Let's talk more about multifamily. You know, you do a great job working with folks, underwriting deals. When we talk about understanding deals and underwriting deals, where are some key mistakes or key areas you think people need to pay attention to or spend more time focused on?
I love this question, John, because oftentimes people look to make quick investment decision, right, based on the investment offering presented to them. They look at the returns and maybe they compare two deals and just go for the one with the higher returns. But what is important to understand is two key items. One is that the inputs or the assumptions that are used to create those pro forma returns or projections really drive the outputs, or in other words, the end result or returns being presented to you, and that they're very much related to or linked to the market. So the market and sub-market really drive a lot of those underlying assumptions that an operator would make on rents, rent growth, expenses, expense adjustments, cap rates, and all that. And then number two is understanding how much, how well the deal, what the risks are with that particular deal, and how well are they mitigated. And a lot of times that would come through aligning the debt structure with the business plan, mitigating the interest rate risk, making sure that there are adequate reserves for working capital, as well as capital expenditures and rehab, and just introducing other areas of cushion. Because the reality is, no matter how good you are at forecasting, your forecast will never be 100% right. You will either be over or slightly under. And the reality is, things inevitably will happen throughout the intended hold period of the asset, which is in most cases 5 years. So relatively a long period of time. So it's impossible to project anything and everything that will go wrong. But as long as you have those cushions built in, as long as you understand how those risks will be mitigated, then that could potentially make one more comfortable with taking that next steps and proceeding with investing.
You said that the inputs really drive the outputs, and I like the way you phrased that. Is there a specific input or a couple of inputs you really pay attention to, whether it's when you're looking at deals for yourself or when you're reviewing someone else's work?
Yes, there are really five, if I would summarize them, that I really paid close attention to before I even dig deeper into the structure and documents of the offering. One is the cap rate, and why is that? Because the cap rate, that's what it's used to evaluate multifamily properties, or really properties in the commercial real estate space. And you can think of it as an inverse multiplier of the operating profit of the property, or for those in the business world, they can think of it as the inverse of the EBITDA multiple. And so it can have a profound effect on the valuation. So making sure those entry and exit cap rates are set appropriately. And I can talk more about what appropriately means. Number two is the rents. That's the second metric that has a profound effect on the valuation, because everything trickles down from the top line, which is the rents and rent assumptions, as far as what pro forma rents would look like, vacancy assumptions, both economic and physical. Number three is the expenses, making sure the appropriate expense adjustments are made to reflect what the property would actually look like post-close. And in many cases, insurance requirements will probably change depending on the county. Tax requirements will probably change, and depending on business plan, labor, repair, and maintenance. Those are probably the top three that represent the largest share of the expense. Number four would be reserves. That's what I call the rainy day fund, to cover you when, not if, but when unexpected things happen, including buffer for any rehab expenses that the operator may have planned. And last but not least is making sure that the debt structure appropriately aligns with the business plan, and making sure that within that structure, the operator has taken adequate steps to mitigate the interest rate risk exposure that comes with that debt. So those are the five key assumptions that I really start with before I dig deeper.
Yeah, so play that back. Vess, you said, when you're looking at a deal, you're looking at these five areas to understand what's going on there. What are these assumptions? And that's going to help you understand if there's going to be an opportunity or if there's a big red flag, right? And those five areas are the cap rate, both entry and exit cap rates. You're looking at the rent projections, you're looking at the expenses, you're looking at the reserves, and then you're also looking at the debt structure. And those five things really tell a story of not just what's happening today at that property, but where there might be opportunities, whether it be a value add deal or whatever the business plan is. And now you can start to understand and shape up where there's opportunities. Now, Vessi, I know you're also helping other people learn how to be better at underwriting. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, I'm happy to share. I actually have a 10-week live course program where I take a beginner from underwriting a deal from A to Z, from beginning to start. We cover the key concepts in underwriting. So beginner level investors can, by the end of the course, feel very comfortable with picking apart a deal if they are solely looking to invest passively, or being able to structure it in a way that mitigates the risks if they're looking to do this in a more active capacity. So we do that over a 10-week program, not only with theory, but also a ton of case studies where I bring in my experience both as an investor as well as a former commercial lender. So I make sure I go over the lending perspective of evaluating a deal as well.
I love that. We'll make sure we link to that as well in our show notes. You can find out more on our website, dbacapitalgroup.com. Vessi, talk to me more about DBA Capital Group. What do you all focus on? What kind of deals are you looking at?
Yeah, so DBA Capital Group, it stands for Dream, Believe, Achieve Capital Group, and that really represents my mission and what I look to accomplish and how I look to serve other investors. But what I'm focused on is really helping high achieving professionals like my former self or other business owners create additional cash flow income streams and create tax efficiencies by investing in well-vetted, cash-flowing commercial real estate properties. So where I come in to help with that exercise is, or with that goal is, building relationships with operators in markets with strong fundamentals, vetting the market, vetting the deal, and when it passes my tests and as well as meets the criteria of my investors, that's when I share that with my investment community so we can co-invest in that project together. So I help with a lot of the front end vetting of the operator, the market, and the investment, and then working with my investors throughout the intended hold of the asset to keep them appraised of how the investment is progressing, and as well as answer any additional questions they may have as they look to build their own additional passive income streams and create that optionality.
No, I love it. Well, listen, if you want to learn more, you can go to dbacapitalgroup.com. I love it. Vessi, right now we're going to transition to our round of insights. Give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
This really reminds me actually when I was still in the single family space, but it served me really well when I transitioned in multifamily. I was looking to purchase a duplex, and there were multiple excuses given as to why we couldn't visit one of the two units. Subsequently, we found out when my agent was finally able to see that unit that it required a bit more rehab than what was originally presented to us, and we of course revised the numbers, made a counter offer, but the seller didn't necessarily accept that, so I chose to walk away. But until we got access to that unit, a lot of time had passed and I was out of some of the diligence money. I still chose to walk away because at the end of the day, sometimes it's better to walk away from a deal than get into a bad deal. But that really served me well as I transitioned into multifamily, to walk every single unit and don't take any excuses or compromises. And of course, time is of essence in real estate, but especially in commercial real estate. So the sooner you get that out of the way to uncover any potential landmines, the better.
Yeah, I love that. All right, give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Oh, I love Calendly. It saved me so much time, so many back and forth texts and emails. It's almost like my virtual assistant or executive assistant. So I highly recommend it, either Calendly or an equivalent app that allows you to connect with others and schedule time more efficiently.
Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
That's a great one. I would say probably my favorite, that would be Think and Grow Rich. I like to share that with a lot of my investors, and that was, we talked about mindset earlier, but that was really one of the books that really helped me make that shift and transition into investing and subsequently entrepreneurship. And unlike the title, it's not just about getting physically rich, but it's really more mentally, spiritually, overcoming limiting beliefs and challenges.
What's a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals?
I love my mornings, and I like to start these with silence and prayer, and really, especially on the tough days, lean into God and really I remember that He's got my back. I can do this, and if challenges come along my way, again, those are learning lessons, and that would open up opportunities down the road.
All right. What's your number one insight for transitioning from W-2 job in a full-time real estate investor?
I would say be fiscally responsible, get educated, and keep at it. Don't give up. It's not a quick journey. It does take time, but it is so worth it.
I love it. All right. You are in Los Angeles, so give us your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
I have many, but the one that comes to mind would be the Grain Cafe. It's really, really casual, and it's an all vegan place. So for all the vegans out there, that's one of my favorites.
The Grain Cafe, where's that at?
It's on Pico Boulevard, a little past Pico.
Okay.
So the mid-city area.
Okay.
It's kind of, it's probably not not super noticeable, not a place many people go to, but I like going there.
All right, we have to put that on the list next time we're out in LA. You gave us a lot of great stuff, Vessi. I really enjoyed hearing your story. coming from, Bulgaria, having a hard upbringing as far as, finances are concerned, but taking that passion and those lessons and grinding your way here in the United States, but also realizing that, hey, as I'm climbing this corporate ladder, maybe there's more to this. Maybe I need to prepare myself just in case this doesn't work out the way I want it to. And sure enough, by taking that preparation and taking those steps, you were almost ready to go when that job loss took place and you're able to pivot and become a full-time real estate investor. Today, you help other people. You've got your 10-week course on underwriting, and then you're also helping people invest in commercial multifamily deals. Again, if you want to learn more, you can go to dbacapitalgroup.com. Vessi, thanks again for being a great guest and coming on Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you, and I hope you have a great day.